And every morning they have a flavor of the day. And if you go, and you're one of the first 100 people who knows the secret flavor of the day,
So, that's like something you have to do before you leave Georgetown. Is get a Georgetown cupcake.
Okay, good to know.
I'm not going to say you have to go buy a Georgetown cupcake. I don't believe in that. I've never bought one.
No. I mean, a cupcake is a cupcake, but if you can get it for free, then it'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't manage to get a free one, then you should buy one.
Okay.
But it's better to
But
get
now
a
we're going to have to buy a baking wire because there's a one.
And I just need to research the events and figure out which.
Yeah, which events have free.
Alright,
Hi, everybody.
So, you wanted to escape out of it? It's on iTunes.
You listen to this song.
What is it saying? Are we human or are we what?
Dancers.
Oh, I thought it said like answers or animals or something, and I'm like, whoa, you guys.
There was a lot of debate about this.
Dancer.
I think that's at the end.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming.
You got your hat? Listen, that's fantastic.
It's kind of too small for me, but I wore it all the time. Okay. Let's introduce ourselves, and then we are here to tell you about what our experience is like in Spain at World Youth Day and MAG+S. And it's, even though we're sitting up here, you're all the way over there, it's super informal, so if you have any questions or anything, interrupt, feel free to ask. You want to start? Introduce yourself.
I'm Zach. I'm a senior.
I'm Frank. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Allison. I'm a senior.
I'm Carlos. I'm a junior.
I'm Corey. I'm a senior.
And so part of this too, none of you are freshmen, but in 3 years,
Actually, only in 2 years, 2013.
Yeah, I'm a
Sophomores.
sophomore.
Oh, okay, there you go. In 2013, MAG+S and World Youth Day will be in Brazil. So,
In Rio.
Andy, if you're interested.
I'm interested, but I don't really like crowds, so you'll have to fill me in on that kind of stuff. Like how.
Yeah, so we were in Spain for like 2.5 weeks, and so we kind of divided up our time, and each person will talk. We have pictures. So before we get started.
Cool. So I want to start a little bit, and if you guys know all of this and don't want me to talk about it, just like shut me up. But I want to give you a little bit of background into what MAG+S is and World Youth Day, because we did them as one, but they're not necessarily universally known together. And then I worked with Father Pat last year to coordinate it, so I'll tell you a little bit about like the process of figuring all that out, and then talk a little bit about our time in Loyola. And I'm going to try to do all of it in 5 minutes, but I don't put you all asleep. World Youth Day is a gathering that happens every 2 or 3 years of young Catholics from around the world. Contrary to its name, it's actually like a week-long series of events that includes everything from a Mass with the Pope to various other services sort of in and around wherever they decide to host the event. And then prior to that, there is a 2-week retreat that's sponsored by the Society of Jesus and some other Ignatian orders, including one I'm particularly partial to, the Society of the Sacred Heart, that is sort of a preparatory retreat for people from Ignatian institutions from around the world. So we sort of participated in both of those events together. We did our participation in World Youth Day through MAG+S and through basically anybody who signed up for that was going to both of them. And so we were working, communicating with the Society of Jesus in Spain to sort of coordinate our participation. And it was sort of getting involved was a really interesting process because we basically never knew quite what was going on. We would ask, so on this day, do you know what country we'll be in? And they would be like, no, you just have to trust in God. So we had a really interesting experience in terms of trying to really understand what it was we were going to be doing. MAG+S is broken up into 3 sections, the first of which was a gathering for all of the participants in Loyola, which is the birthplace and the site of the conversion of Ignatius. And then we broke up into experience groups in which about 20 or so people, usually from 2 to 4 countries, depending on the site, would get together and do either service work or sort of a cultural immersion thing. Some of them did pilgrimages where they would hike to important sites. But they had those all throughout France, Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. And those lasted for about a week. And then everybody from MAG+S met back up in Madrid, had like a closing ceremony before World Youth Day happened. So I think we found out about where we were going in that experience group like 3 weeks before we left, I was already there, because I spent my summer there. 3 weeks before everybody came out to Spain, we learned exactly where we would be. And our experience group was in a small town called Venid, where we did sort of a cultural immersion thing. We'll get more detail on that shortly. But I'll also talk a little bit about Loyola. So Loyola was our first stop. And it was kind of a really crazy couple of days because they had 3,000 people coming in, and we were there. Basically, people arrived sometime during the day on Thursday, had Friday and Saturday there, and then dispersed for their experience groups between Sunday night and Monday morning, depending on where you were going. I got that right? Sunday night, Monday morning? So during our couple days there, the first night on Thursday, there was this really simultaneously cool and a little bit bizarre interpretive dance where they were trying to show us the mission of MAG+S out on this enormous field. But it was really cool because there were 3,000 people from Ignatian schools and churches and things like that from all around the world. It was really cool to see everyone who sort of shared in the same charism, having such a diverse way of interpreting that and bringing that together. So every sort of country had a flag that one of the groups had brought, and they welcomed each individual participant country by name, so like everyone would cheer. They do it in the language of the pilgrims from that country. So the next day there was like a fair that was kind of cool, but it was kind of an unstructured time for the most part, and it was really nice because it allowed us to sort of rest and prepare for the rest of the retreat. There were 2 really cool things that we wanted to sort of highlight. One of them was a mass that the Father General Adolfo Nicholas spoke for all of the participants. I think all of us agree that it's a really cool memory, but in the moment, it was like a 3-hour mass because they gave it in 3 languages, or they gave the homily in 3 languages.
Can I just interject? What took so long was that every priest who was there, which was a lot of priests, celebrated, and so the procession, just the opening procession, took like 45 minutes.
Well, and also the music was not so good. They tried.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where you're sitting there and like, this is really funny, but really cool at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was strange because it was one of those things that I could imagine on campus everybody getting really irritated about. But people just generally have like a really positive attitude and were like, we're here, we're together, this is cool. And so it's kind of a very, very fun experience that way. And these are actually, this picture in the lower right is of that mass. This is this one on the left. This top one is of us in front of the church that's built on the site right outside of the house in which Ignatius experienced his conversion. And then the last really cool thing, on Saturday night, we met up with Father Pat's brother Pete, and we decided, well, a couple of us decided kind of unilaterally that we were going to try to climb up into the hills. So we ran down and we're like, we're going up, and it was pitch black, as you can kind of see in that picture in the upper right. And so we sort of stumbled our way up there. A couple of us tripped several times, but we eventually got up to the top of this hill and looked back down and saw like all the lights from everyone who was down there and hanging out. And I think that was a very cool bonding experience for all of us in sort of growing together as a group of people going on pilgrimage together. So the takeaway being, like, the program stuff was really cool, but there were a lot of moments that I think we'll remember for a long time that were just spontaneous products of the retreat experience.
That little blue dot that you guys see kind of in the middle of that picture, that's that stage that's in that bottom picture. So that's how far up we were. So it was just a gorgeous sight.
Cool. Do you want to talk about the experience groups?
Yeah. So.
Oh, it's
Oh,
not
yeah,
that's
that's us. Up at the top of the hill.
So our experience group went to Peñafiel, as Corey had said, and there were a couple. So Peñafiel is known for the castle, which we went to the first day. There was not much else in the town. There's like wineries and stuff, but it was a cultural experience. So we did a lot of different activities. We were there for an entire week, lived in a house. The house in the bottom right is where we stayed. We had beds, which was nice because some people didn't have beds to sleep in for the whole week. And we went to a wine museum and stomped grapes and pretend.
Actually, in the castle.
Yeah, in the castle. And then what struck me, just like the thing I wanted to highlight from our time there, was how hospitable the other people in our focus group were. There were people from Spain and France, and then another Jesuit from Angola. And the only common language that everyone knew how to speak was English, which was convenient for us because we're not, I mean, aside from Corey and Carlos, and I'm Frank. Okay, I'm not bilingual.
I'm not.
So, but they were so hospitable. They were so willing to translate for us because I couldn't understand what they were saying in Spanish. So it was really nice of them to do that. Additionally, they were also really interested in learning about our culture. So we had like an hour-long conversation with people from Spain, and they asked like, Zach, is America really like the movies? And I said, no, no, no. And then by the end of the conversation, I guess it is kind of like. They were asking like, and is there house parties with the red and blue cups? And we said, yeah. And then so one of the days we walked to another town and had a Spanish barbecue, and then past like a field of sunflowers. There were a lot of like just different cultural things that we did. We went to a co-op and did like a tour of a winery and a nursing home and sang for the residents. So there were just different aspects of the whole week that we really came together as a group. That I really liked. Allison was hosting.
And also in Peñafiel, we did daily mass and daily reflection. We broke up into smaller groups within our MAG+S group, about 30. So in my group, it was probably like 6 or 7 people. And again, like since English was a common language, everyone had to like reflect in English. It was tough for some individuals that it wasn't their first language. So it was just kind of giving them extra points for trying to reflect. Because I had a hard time just reflecting, and I know English, but for others it was a little challenging. And just reflecting on what we had done during the day. And just like, I remember the first day we went to Peñafiel, we did a scavenger hunt, so we got acquainted with the town and the people. We learned like a song called Chundara, so it's like just learning more about the culture. And also, I remember one night we went to a concert where it was just like a lot of fun because there was like different music performances. We were dancing. We were the only group dancing like in that whole area, and we probably thought we were crazy, but we were just having a good time.
Was that at the beginning of the festival of San Roque?
Yeah, so we had learned about, learning about the culture of this town. We had learned that their patron saint is San Roque, and we happened to be in this town during the feast of San Roque, and so that celebration was part of like the festival for San Roque, and so we went into town that night, and I mean the whole town was there, and we had a concert, and I mean, our group just had so much fun dancing. We danced so much throughout that whole week, but that night was probably like the best.
We have a picture.
Oh yeah, go. That's us singing.
That-
That's, oh
Oh,
yeah,
that
that's,
was it. No,
That's
that's
what-
singing at the
Yeah,
nursing
that's
home.
the one.
This is us with
The-
the.
That's us
yeah.
at the
with the
festival.
Spaniards and the French.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
All right, you guys.
We had a few surveys there too. So.
Yeah.
And then we went to Valladolid, which is the old capital of Spain. And there we met up with the other Magis groups from the region of Castilla y León. So it was about 4 other Magis groups, and just reflected, shared stories, sang, had mass together, also did a dance, the human dance that we had learned. And we also had a mass there. You can see from pictures. We participated in it, and also just there was like a music performance or a dance performance, I'm sorry, in the beginning, and there was just also a big choir with just a lot of people from those Magis groups and engaging. So it was
There was also that huge picnic.
Oh, and yeah, we had a picnic at a farm right outside the city, so we just got to bond and had like a lot of food and stuff and drink wine. So.
And Zach was actually asked to read, so Zach is reading at Mass. He's not just standing there and having his picture taken.
Yeah.
So the irony of the stories that actually end sitting there having a picture taken. They have to take a
But they
picture.
didn't come out so good when we took.
Oh, really? Oh,
That
that's
one is
The reason
Because I
why-
remember Frank taking pictures. I was
The
like, oh,
reason why
Frank.
this one, why this particular one is posed, is that I didn't realize until afterwards that you can't really see it, but there was a statue of Saint Ignatius there, and I thought it'd be cool to try and get that that statue right behind Zach. I mean, it's there if you look at it on a computer screen, but
Yeah.
that's why I had it posed like that.
All the groups who were in Valladolid at the time contributed to the Mass in a way that reflected what they had done throughout the past week during their experience. So like there was a liturgical dance because that's what they had been working on.
Really
Like our experience was a cultural immersion experience, but theirs was a more artistic liturgical dance experience. So they brought that to the Mass, which was cool to see everyone, like the fruit of everyone's week being brought to the Mass.
I think it was also cool, the fact that we hadn't known what to expect. It made everything a lot more, made us all more open to like everything that was happening, because we didn't have preconceived notions of, you know, this is the schedule, this is what we're going to do. So.
Yeah, it was good to live in the moment. And I loved this Mass. I started crying at the end. I was just so happy. And it was just so, I don't know, I really felt the Spirit of God in that church and with those people. And I was glad that I was with them. So after Valladolid, we went to Madrid for World Youth Day. So normally Madrid has 4 million people in the city, and then World Youth Day added about 2 million people. So at this point, so everyone who did the Magis program, all 3,000, came back to Madrid, and then everyone else who was attending World Youth Day, so people from parishes and schools, and just like people from all over the world. And wait, can you go back? So what we were, everyone who participated in the Magis program stayed at a Jesuit high school. And when we got there, it was a little overwhelming again, because we had been used to being with our small Magis group, and now we were back with the 3,000 people. And they brought us to where we were staying. So as you can tell, I was the only girl from Georgetown on this trip. And so I often got, well, not often, but I occasionally got split off from the group because I had to go do the stuff with the girls. And when they were showing us to where we would be staying in Madrid, I went with the girls. But this time it was nice because I knew the girls from Spain and the girls from France who had been in Peñafiel with us. So they brought us to this huge gym. It's the gym for this high school, and that's where all the girls were staying. We have a picture of it, but it's really dark because it was just massive. And so they brought us there, and they said, okay, Spanish girls over there, French girls over there, American girls over there. And since I was the only American girl, I looked at them, and they said, you're Spanish, you're Spanish. You can roll your R's, so that's fine. And we were lucky that we were there early enough that the Spanish girls and myself, we set up our sleeping bags in one corner, and the French girls set them up in the other corner. So we were actually still with each other because we just liked, even though MAG+S was over at this point, we still wanted to be with